Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is HeroQuest, and it's time for another episode of several things I found at stores like Dollar Tree. Will they HeroQuest? The first is Fairy Garden figurines. I've done these in the past, but this time I've got little ships. I always go to the dungeon tree in my town or in the neighboring town once a week, sometimes twice. And when I go for various reasons, I always browse the crafting and toy aisles just to see if there's been any stock rotation and I can drum up any inspiration from the stuff that I find. And this time we have a set of 3 miniature boats. They come in different styles, so you can kind of pick and choose which one suits you. And there's only 3, so I suppose you could use these to represent different heroes, or you could just pick one that you like best. Like I like this one the best. You can place it on your board, and you can do this if you have some sort of quest that involves water. So, having just freshly put away all of my HeroQuest stuff except for this board and a few figurines, let us say that this central room is completely filled with water, and the only way a hero is going to get across is if they get this ship item. It doesn't have to be an item. It can be something that's in the room. It can be something that has to be moved with the hero, like a heavy chest where you only roll 1 die per turn for movement. Anyways, this hero can implement this boat to get across this moat-filled area. So I would pick up the hero, and now the boat would represent your hero. And all of the monsters who may have line of sight would still be able to attack this ship if they are able to attack ranged, or if they are adjacent to it, melee, or if you have special water monsters like abominations that would be able to come out, they would be able to attack this ship until it gets to its destination, at which point the hero could exit the ship. The ship could have its own body points instead of sharing them with the hero, and if the ship is completely destroyed, then the hero will drown or must expend special movement or actions in order to swim to the other side from where he's at. Now I kind of like that, but I also like the idea that all of the corridors are flooded instead. Instead of having to use special tiles or overlays to represent this, you just say all of the corridors are flooded, and then our hero gets on the ship and is able to find new passageways with new doors and explore new rooms. Now mechanically, this doesn't work barely any differently than just normal movement through the corridors. But when you open up all of the corridors and you change the context, the sort of theme, the mood, to them being filled with water and having to navigate with ships, that makes things a little bit more imaginative. Now we've got heroes who are going through, I should call them boats, not ships, or rafts or something else, anything but ships. They're not really ships. Heroes rowing through flooded corridors, and maybe there's even like a flow. Maybe there is a flow that you can commit to memory. All of these quadrants are flowing in a direction around them, so the hero is constantly being pushed in their ship, and if they want, they can roll for movement to have them kind of try to make their ship go more, and if they get caught in a different current, then they'll start moving that way. You can get your heroes or your players to really think about the movement of the water in the corridors that have moving water and how to navigate that. But enough about that. Let's move on to item number 2. Conversation cards. Icebreaker, 108 prompts. This isn't going to be nearly as entertaining, and as a matter of fact, this is kind of a sham of a purchase anyway, because although there are 108 cards here, each one with an icebreaker question, a lot of them are the exact same question, just phrased several different ways, like it's unreal. But I do like the design on the back of the cards, and you could go through here and select the cards that make the most sense for your game if you want to incorporate a question asking mechanic into your current scenario. This might also be a decent way to actually break the ice, which is what the cards are intended for if you're trying to get strangers together, or if you're trying to get your kids to play, but they're hesitant about playing a game with full-grown adults. In my Goblin Village Loki quest scenario, we had heroes attempting to recruit the greenskins of the local village, trying to help them stop the impending invasion of Zargon's forces. And these cards could be used in a similar way, with you dealing different conversation cards to the different heroes, and then that's how many opportunities they have to win over the subjects of the dungeon that they are playing in. So the barbarians got 3 choices here. and it's got to make sure to pick the right question in order to win over the orc with whom he is speaking. If you could visit any fictional world, where would you go? That's not a very orcish question. Are you an early bird or a night owl? That might be a pretty decent orc question. Do you prefer to watch movies at home or in the theater? Let's just ask this one. Are you an early bird or a night owl? This can be translated, of course, to mean something completely different, something more accurate to the context of the game. Will we attack in the morning or in the middle of the night? That could also be the challenge for your hero, to paraphrase the question so that it matches the mood of the NPC or monster. What is the funniest joke you know? What is your all-time favorite movie? You could also use these in an apples-to-apples kind of way, granting a bonus to the hero that wins the most points. So everybody writes down their answer to, if you could witness any historic speech, which one would you choose? And then they mix those answers up and give them to the question asker, who will take the answer that they like most and say, I like this one's me, whoever wrote this one down gets the point. And whoever gets the point gets the extra attack die for that game, or the extra 2 mind points, or what have you. Anyway, I've shown it to you, I can write it off of my taxes. Enough about that, the next thing is mini glass cork bottles. These actually come in a variety of sizes, different shapes. This is a 6-pack. They've got a 3-pack of taller bottles. They've got another 6-pack of squattier but larger scale bottles. These are plastic. They're not going to shatter. The cork is like real cork though. And you can use these to represent the hero's collection of healing potions. Actually, when I rub them together, I'm not totally sure. They do say that they're mini glass actually, so maybe I should treat them as if they are glass. There's no warnings on here at all. They could be glass. They don't feel like glass. They feel like, I don't know. I don't know. Please treat them as if they are glass. You could literally put these on the board if you wanted your heroes to collect them, having like the superimposed giant item effect. They just collect the bottle. It's not supposed to be realistic. But you could also fill these bottles with things of your choice. If you have the glitter or the stars or anything from the previous Dungeon Tree videos, you could put them into these bottles to help them represent the theme, like something red for health potion, something blue for mind potion, something green for defense, another color for attack, and so on. Or if you don't associate those specific colors with the attributes I mentioned, you can switch them around until you get a good feel for it. Food coloring and liquid would work too, but then it's wet. If the cork top comes off, then you're risking having wet stuff on your board, and nobody wants that. You get 6 of them for $1. What are the likelihoods your heroes are going to have more than 6 in a single campaign? Actually fairly high if you count all of the different strength potions and stuff that they'll get, so maybe buy 2 packs and then you'll be set. But enough about that, the next item is Turbo Wheels, Skateboard, and Accessory. And I know what you're thinking, Ash, how can that possibly HeroQuest? Let me show you. It's this part. This is what I was looking at the entire time. This could be your next 3D stairs. And I mean, it's just a hollowed out stair ramp piece of plastic. It's worthless, but this fits, you know, it fits. You've got a 2x3 set of stairs. Your heroes can now come into the dungeon in style. Well, they'll kind of slide down. They won't stay on the steps, but I mean, it's $1.25. What do you want from me? Okay, so I guess I'd rather have the 2-dimensional tile on my board, but you know, it takes all kinds. Who knows? Who knows who out there I was able to inspire with my, hey look, a barbarian on a skateboard. The next item, and I only got it because I know you've all walked past this item and you had the thought, you had the intrusive thought, you didn't let the intrusive thoughts win. I did. I let the intrusive thoughts win for you. Googly eyes. All sizes, all eyes, with adhesive backing. I think there's adhesive backing. Are you kidding me? They're not adhesive backed? Okay, so there's 125 of them and they were for $1.25. That's 1 penny per eye. I guess I was a bit naive to assume they would have adhesive backs. I was going to do this funny collage where I put eyeballs on the minis and everything, but you're just going to have to make do with this. Against the googly horde, Googlers keep eye see of Talor, eyes of the dread moon. Get it? Get it? It's eyes before. Hurry up and release it, Joe. Hurry up. Release the thing, Joe. The Italian expansion. Great googly moogly. The Spirit Queen's Torment. No, Ash, there's no eyes on that one. No, I'm not going to deface my queen like that. I'm just kidding. Look at that pair of eyes. Wouldn't be complete without the game system. Onward, brave heroes. If these had adhesive, I'd stick them to the game screen, and my heroes would be completely unnerved by the sight. Googly-eyed mentor. Every game, I would increase the size of one of the eyes or both just to see if they noticed, and then by the end of the game, oh my god, Lord Tome, what? Zargon did what? Alternatively, you can actually kit bash these eyes onto bases and have them move around just like eye masses. It wouldn't be completely off-brand just to have a mass of eyes in a fantasy dungeon crawler. It would actually be very Zelda-esque. You could have these eyes be an enemy that the heroes have to slay, or a boss monster, or even just decoration. You can have entire rooms with tiles just covered in eyes as scenery. And look, you can use the different sizes of eyes to block off certain tiles visually, so the heroes know they can't walk on that tile because it's currently being occupied by a bunch of Oculus Orbises. And you know what? No adhesive and no base really required. You can just sprinkle these onto the board just like so, and you don't even have to keep track of the thing's body points. Every time the hero hits it, whatever body points they effectively take off of it, you just remove that number in eyes until you get to the last eyes, and then when you get to those, you lop those off and you remove those from the board, because each eye, once it's poked, it's pretty much useless. It just, yeah. So that's 5 things from Dungeon Tree, and now I'm going to give you some bonus things that I picked up. Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition for dummies. This was only $3 at Goodwill. And I picked it up because while I get Dungeons & Dragons, I don't need a dummies book to understand how to play. It has a lot more to do with trying to see if this can give us the inspiration that we want to build quests in HeroQuest. I don't really know what it is about taking complex things like Dungeons & Dragons and picking and choosing things that we like to a very simple dungeon crawler that exists because it's simple. I mean, I guess I do kind of get it. It's a psychological win. We make the game ours by applying the things that we want to apply to it with Homebrew, and then it's more rewarding. It feels like we were a part of the creative process, and if our players enjoy it, that just feeds our dopamine rush. It's like, yeah, I made my friends have fun because of something I created. Just turn to a random page here and we get Jax, first level human rogue. We get his hit points, when he's bloodied, what his healing surge is, how many surges per day he can get, his ability scores, all that good stuff. I don't really care about that. I'm more interested in the feats and the class features like First Strike. At the start of an encounter, you have combat advantage against any creatures that have not yet acted in that encounter. Use it when you first open a door and your rogue enters a room full of monsters. That rogue is going to be able to roll 1 extra attack die regardless of the weapon he already has equipped. And then on subsequent turns, that bonus is gone because the element of surprise is gone. Rogue weapon talent, you gain a +1 bonus to attack rolls when using a dagger, already included in stats. Sneak attack, once per round when you have combat advantage against an enemy and you're using a light blade, crossbow, or sling, you deal 2d8 damage if the attack hits, or +2d8. So we can convert this to HeroQuest speak by saying if your rogue is positioned behind an enemy that is facing a different direction. This is also one of the feats in Backstabber, and then there's Human Perseverance. You gain a +1 feat bonus to saving throws. Saving throws isn't in HeroQuest, but it could be pretty easily. Reading the section on flanking, it provides a simple combat tactic for you and an ally to use against an enemy. To flank an enemy, you and an ally must be adjacent to the enemy and on opposite sides of the enemy's space. This can absolutely be utilized in HeroQuest. Be careful though, 2 monsters working together can flank you. Class and level modifiers. Where do XP come from? Well, you see, when a daddy XP and a mommy XP love each other very much, the exploration task, this would be a useful part of the book to read if you're trying to figure out how to make the searches a little bit more interesting. I like this one in particular if you're trying for a more roleplay aspect with HeroQuest. Get the players to tell you what their characters are doing. Describe the options. Identify player responses. Interrupt with obstacles or encounters. Part 5, advance to the next decision point. The 10 best fighter powers. This is giving you the 10 best abilities of a fighter. I would go through here and just raid this for ideas for your fighter class or hero in HeroQuest. This goes on to give you the best rogue powers. Oh, is that Lita? Oh, it's Lita. Oh, she's the halfling rogue. Oh, I love her. The reason I know it's Lita is because Lita is actually mentioned by name in here. Jax, Shadow, Lita, Kalia, Tordek, and Regdar. The reason that that's important, those are the names of the heroes in the Dungeons & Dragons 2008 Parker board game. So those are like canon characters that they were using for the brand at the time. That's really cool. I don't know if you'll be able to get this book for $3, but if you see a book like it, the point is to check it out. If you're out in the wild and you're at a secondhand store and you see a book like this on the cheap, pick it up. Yeah, this was copyright 2008. Very good. This is for review purposes only. I only showed samples of the book, full credit to the authors, no copyright infringement intended, and all of that. All right, and finally, I've been hanging on to this one for quite a while. This is the Everything Mary organizer tote with dividers. And the reason I picked this up is because I've been looking for a storage solution for ages that will house my Project F and pretty much anything else I might decide to keep in a tote instead of the board game box. I don't know if this is the perfect solution. It does seem to cover a lot of the bases though. I ended up ordering this online, although I did find it at a Walmart that's about 50-60 miles away. Now, I think this was like $16, which is a surprising amount of money for plastic, but a lot of storage solutions about this size are surprisingly more expensive than you might think. However, that said, this is a little bit more than meets the eye. So our lid unlocks and flips up, and I just want to show you the barcode because I had a heck of a time trying to find this. I only found it at one of my 3-4 closest Walmarts, and I ended up buying it online instead of picking it up at that Walmart. But this tray does not have customizable bins, but it is removable once you get past that air suction lock. And then the layer below it is completely customizable. You have control over every single column. So you can place your columns down, and then the spaces in those columns are as long as you want them to be. And then you've got enough of these dividers to divide every single cell in the tray if you want, for a total of 30 different cells. You've got nice little ridges that make these friendly if you want to lift them out, put them in easily. You can kind of mix and match shapes. I had my crafting supplies in here, my scissors, my cutting roller blade, storing my extra cell dividers in here. I've taken everything out because I moved away from the crafting phase. I have a lot of my stuff crafted and done, so I didn't need to have all that extra stuff. And I was able to place all of my figurines and stuff into much smaller storage. So I'm just kind of keeping this around in case it becomes useful again with a different game project later. But it's a lot of bins, it's a lot of storage. You could take out the stuff in the bottom completely, and then you've got a completely opened up bottom. You could place your game books down there, or you could just remove half of the dividers and place 6x9 quest books in there. Pretty decent solution, and it's got a handle. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm glad I finally got to show it to you. And that's this episode of Dungeon Tree. What did you think? Was there anything here that you would be willing to go out and buy? Was there anything that you wanted me to use in a different way, or if you have different ideas for how to use it? I didn't think about the googly eyes being used as dungeon decoration or a boss until I'd actually opened them and they spilled out onto my tiles. When I bought these, it was purely going to be for the quest book joke. I did not get the inspiration to actually have a practical use for them until they were on the board. Sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes you can be absolutely surprised by the inspiration you get from very accessible things that don't look like they go with the thing you're trying to do. And that's pretty much it. This might be the very last of this kind of video series. I think I said something to that effect last time, but they're going to be a bit formulaic if I keep them up now, because all of the craft supplies are either going to be handouts to the players, different ways to decorate the dungeon or the miniatures, sculpts that could be used as enemies or bosses if you're trying to lure in a particular audience, or perhaps crafting supplies to make your own mini games or some sort of intra-quest event. And I'd rather not become formulaic, so I will wait until I am truly inspired by another set of Dungeon Tree items. All that stuff's getting donated now. Thank you so much for watching. Comment anything you like down below, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Until next time, onward, brave heroes.